All right, let's deep dive into something that can really make or break a new venture, huh? The top 10 startup mistakes. We're going, beyond the surface level today.
Yeah, we'll be dissecting why these mistakes are so fatal.
It's going to be like a crash course in what not to do,
Mm.
with, of course, insights to help you navigate the startup world.
Exactly. And I'll be pulling from my own experiences, to give you some practical advice on how to sidestep those pitfalls.
Okay, so first up is a mistake that might seem obvious, but, it trips up a lot of founders. Lack of market validation.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've all heard those stories about someone pouring their heart and soul into an idea only to realize, nobody wants it.
Happens all the time.
It's like you meticulously craft this, perfect gourmet meal only to find out all your guests are allergic to the main ingredient. Ouch.
Yeah. It's painful, but it happens more often than you think.
Yeah.
And the problem isn't just wasted effort. It's the opportunity cost.
Right.
That time and energy could have been spent refining an idea that actually resonated with the market.
So how do we avoid falling into this trap? The source says, talk to your customers. That seems like pretty basic advice.
Sure.
What are some less obvious tactics to validate an idea?
Well, just talking isn't enough. It's about how you talk and what you're listening for, right? One technique is A/B testing. Let's say you have two versions of a landing page for your product. You drive traffic to both and see which one converts better. That data gives you concrete evidence of what resonates with your target audience.
That makes sense. But what if you don't have a product yet? How do you validate an idea before you even start building?
That's where the jobs to be done framework comes in. Instead of focusing on the product itself, you focus on the underlying need or problem it solves. You interview potential customers and ask questions like, what are you trying to achieve? Or what frustrations do you have with current solutions?
I see.
By understanding the job your product is hired to do, you can validate the need before investing heavily in development.
Okay. So we've validated our idea, we're feeling good, but now we hit another potential roadblock, running out of cash.
Oh, yeah.
Our source calls this the startup equivalent of running out of fuel mid-flight.
Yeah.
Not good.
Cash flow is the lifeblood of any startup. You need enough runway to cover your operating expenses, invest in growth, and weather unexpected storms.
Right.
A common mistake is underestimating your burn rate, how quickly you're spending your cash.
So basic budgeting isn't enough. What are some more strategic ways to manage cash flow, especially in the early stages?
Well, you need to be proactive about securing funding. Angel investors can be a good option early on.
Okay.
They're individuals who provide capital in exchange for equity in your company. Later on, you might consider venture capital, which comes from firms that invest larger sums, but they typically have higher expectations for growth and returns.
But VC funding isn't the only option, right? I mean, there are other ways to raise capital.
Absolutely. Crowdfunding has become a popular avenue for startups. Platforms like, Kickstarter and Indiegogo allow you to pre-sell your product or service to a large audience. So you're raising capital while also building buzz and validating demand. Each funding source has its pros and cons. And choosing the right one depends on your specific stage, goals, and risk tolerance.
Now let's talk about the people who are actually building this thing, the team.
Sure.
Our source pulls no punches, saying that not having a solid team is, basically a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I mean,
It talks about dysfunction, low morale, missed opportunities, pretty grim stuff.
it's grim, but it's true. A startup's success hinges on its team. You need a group of people who are not only skilled, but also aligned in their vision and work ethic. Think of it like a symphony orchestra, right? You need talented musicians playing different instruments, but they also need to be in tune with each other and the conductor to create beautiful music.
Okay, so we're looking for talent and harmony, but what are some specific red flags to watch out for when building a team?
Well,
What are the signs that someone might not be a good fit, even if they have the right skills on paper?
one thing I always look for is a genuine passion for the problem we're trying to solve. Someone who's just chasing a paycheck or a fancy title won't have the same level of commitment as someone who truly believes in the mission.
So passion over pedigree.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But how do you assess that during an interview?
You listen carefully to their motivations. Do their eyes light up when they talk about the challenge? Do they ask thoughtful questions? Passion is contagious, and it's something you can definitely sense in a conversation.
Now let's talk about the environment those passionate people are working in. What are some practical tips for fostering a positive team culture? especially in the pressure cooker of a startup.
Well, open communication is key. Encourage people to voice their opinions, even if they disagree. Celebrate wins together, big and small. And, don't be afraid to have a little fun along the way.
Okay, back for more deep dive insights. We just talked about market validation, the importance of a solid team, and of course that ever-present challenge of managing cash flow.
Right.
But the journey doesn't stop there, right? We got to talk about competition.
Absolutely.
Our source uses some pretty strong language here, saying that ignoring the competition is like playing chess blindfolded.
Oh, yeah.
You're bound to make a few good moves by chance, but eventually, well, you're going to get checkmated.
It's not about being paranoid. It's just about, being informed.
Right. Knowledge is power. But how do we go beyond just knowing who our competitors are?
Well,
What kind of intel do we actually need to gather to make, smart decisions?
you got to start by analyzing their strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
What are they doing well?
Yeah.
And where are they vulnerable? This will help you differentiate your offering and position yourself strategically. Look at their pricing, their marketing messages, their customer reviews. What are people saying about them?
It sounds like we're almost becoming like secret agents gathering intel on our rivals.
Yeah.
Is there a line we shouldn't cross here?
Well, ethical considerations are always important.
Right.
We're talking about competitive intelligence, not corporate espionage.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on publicly available information, industry reports, customer feedback. There are plenty of ethical ways to gather insights about your competitors.
Okay, so we're keeping it clean, ethical. But how do we translate all this intel into action?
Right.
How do we actually use it to our advantage?
Yeah. So let's say your competitor is known for having excellent customer service,
Right.
but their product is a bit clunky. That's an opportunity for you to differentiate yourself.
Okay.
By offering a more intuitive and user-friendly product while still providing, of course, that top-notch support.
It's about finding that gap, that space where you can shine. Okay, so we've got a handle on the competition. Now, we need to make sure people actually know about our awesome product or service. Our source calls this poor marketing and sales strategy, and it emphasizes that it really emphasizes having a clear plan.
Yeah, it's not just about shouting your message from the rooftops, right? It's about strategically targeting your ideal customer, understanding their pain points and crafting a message that resonates with them.
But this is where things can get really overwhelming, especially for startups with limited resources. I mean, where do we even begin with creating a marketing and sales strategy that actually works?
Well, first, you have to define your target audience.
Right.
Who are you trying to reach? What are their demographics, their interests, their online behavior? Then, consider your channels. Where do your ideal customers hang out? Are they on social media? Are they reading industry blogs? Are they attending conferences?
Okay, so we know who we're talking to and where to find them. But how do we actually craft a message that, cuts through the noise and actually grabs their attention?
Focus on the value you provide. What problem do you solve? How does your product or service make their lives better? Don't just tell them about your features. Tell them about the benefits they'll experience. Make sure your message is clear, concise, and consistent across all your channels.
Got it. Value, clarity, consistency. But what about the sales process itself? How do we convert those interested leads into paying customers?
Well, your sales process should be seamless and customer-centric.
Right.
Make it easy for them to learn about your product, get their questions answered, and of course, make a purchase.
So no complicated forms, no confusing checkout processes.
Exactly. And don't forget about follow-up. After someone makes a purchase, nurture that relationship. Check in with them, see how they're doing, offer support. A happy customer is more likely to become a repeat customer and a brand advocate.
All right, we've got a solid marketing and sales strategy in place. Now, let's talk about growth. Mistake number 6 on our list is all about timing. Scaling too early or too late.
Yeah.
This seems like a tricky balancing act.
It is. Scaling prematurely can drain your resources and really cripple your operation. But waiting too long can mean missing out on valuable opportunities. It's like trying to catch a wave. You need to paddle at the right moment. Not too early, not too late.
So how do we know when it's the right time to actually hit the gas pedal and scale up? What are the signs we should be looking for?
One key indicator is product market fit. Have you found a repeatable and scalable business model? Are customers consistently raving about your product? Are you seeing strong organic growth? These are all positive signals that it might be time to scale.
Okay, so we're seeing those signs. We're feeling confident. But what are some practical tips for scaling without losing control? What are the key things to keep in mind?
Well, start by building a strong infrastructure.
Okay.
This includes your systems, processes, and team. Make sure you have the capacity to handle increased demand without sacrificing quality or customer service.
So it's about laying the groundwork before we start building the skyscraper.
Yeah.
What about the team? How do we ensure that they can handle the increased workload without, burning out?
Hiring the right people is crucial.
Right.
Look for individuals who are not only skilled, but also adaptable and resilient. And don't forget about training and development. Invest in your team's growth so they can grow with the company.
All right, solid infrastructure, a stellar team, and we're ready to scale. But what happens when the market throws us a curveball? That brings us to mistake number 7, not adapting to market changes.
Oh yeah, the business landscape is constantly evolving. Customer preferences shift, new technologies emerge, competitors disrupt the game. A startup that clings rigidly to its initial plan is like a ship trying to sail through a hurricane without adjusting its course.
Okay, we need to be flexible. We need
Yeah.
to be adaptable. But how do we strike a balance between, sticking to our vision and pivoting when necessary? How do we know when it's time to change course?
Monitor the market closely.
Yeah.
Pay attention to industry trends, customer feedback, competitor activity. Are we seeing a decline in sales? Are customers asking for features you don't offer? Are competitors gaining market share with a new approach? These are all signs that it might be time to adapt.
So we're constantly scanning the horizon, looking for those early warning signs. But how do we actually foster a culture of adaptability within our team?
Encourage experimentation and learning.
Yeah.
Create a safe space for people to try new things, even if they fail.
Yeah.
Celebrate both successes and failures as opportunities for growth.
That makes sense. It's about creating a culture where it's okay to take risks, to learn from mistakes, and to adapt to change. Now, let's talk about the people who are at the heart of it all, our customers.
Sure.
Mistake number 8 is neglecting customer feedback. And this seems like a cardinal sin in the startup world.
It is. Customer feedback is a gold mine of insights. It tells you what's working, what's not, and what needs to be improved. Ignoring it is like sailing through a fog without a compass.
But just gathering feedback isn't enough, is it? What are some practical tips for actually using customer feedback to improve our product or service?
Well, first, make it easy for customers to share their feedback.
Okay.
Implement multiple channels, like surveys, online reviews, social media monitoring. Then, analyze the data you collect. Look for patterns, trends, and common pain points.
Okay, we've analyzed the feedback. We've identified some key areas for improvement. What's the next step?
You got to prioritize the changes that will have the biggest impact on customer satisfaction. This might mean fixing bugs, adding new features, or simply improving your communication.
And then it's all about taking action, right? Actually implementing those changes and letting customers know that we're listening.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to close the loop.
Yeah.
Reach out to customers who provided feedback and let them know how you've used their input to improve your product or service.
That's a great point. It shows that we value their feedback and that we're committed to creating a better experience for them. Now, let's move on to a mistake that can be especially challenging for founders who are, brimming with ideas. Lack of focus and strategy.
Right.
I mean, it's tempting to try to do everything at once,
Oh, yeah?
to chase every shiny new opportunity that comes along.
Right.
But spreading yourself too thin can lead to burnout, wasted resources, and ultimately, failure. It's like trying to juggle too many balls at once.
Exactly.
Eventually, they'll all come crashing down. So we need to prioritize. We need to be strategic. But how do we know which opportunities to pursue and which ones to let go of?
Well, start by defining your core values and your long-term vision.
Okay.
What do you stand for? What impact do you want to make in the world? Then evaluate each opportunity through that lens. Does it align with your values? Does it contribute to your vision? If not, it's probably best to pass.
So it's about staying true to our core, even when there's pressure to, chase every trend or fad. What are some practical tips for staying focused and avoiding distractions, especially in the fast-paced world of startups?
Create a clear roadmap
Okay.
that outlines your goals, your key initiatives, and your timelines. Then, break down those goals into smaller, actionable steps. This will help you stay on track and avoid getting bogged down in the day-to-day chaos.
It's about having a plan, sticking to it, and, celebrating those small wins along the way.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to the final mistake on our list. And it's a big one, losing sight of your vision.
Yeah.
The vision is the North Star that guides the journey.
Right.
It's the reason why the startup exists, the impact it wants to make in the world.
Absolutely.
And without it, you risk drifting aimlessly, losing motivation, and ultimately failing to achieve your full potential. It's like setting out on a road trip without a destination in mind.
Yep.
You might enjoy the scenery along the way, but you'll never truly arrive. So how do we keep that vision alive? Especially when we're faced with challenges and setbacks.
Regularly remind yourself and your team why you started this journey in the first place. What problem are you solving? What change do you want to see in the world?
So it's about connecting with that deeper purpose, that passion that ignited this whole adventure. What are some practical ways to keep that vision top of mind, both for ourselves and our team?
You can create a vision board that visually represents your goals and aspirations. Share inspiring stories of how your product or service is making a difference in people's lives. Celebrate milestones and acknowledge the hard work and dedication of your team.
Those are all great ideas. It's about keeping the flame alive even when the winds of change are blowing strong. And that brings us to the end of part 2 of our deep dive into startup mistakes. We've covered a lot of ground, from understanding the competitive landscape to scaling strategically, from adapting to change to staying true to our vision. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. Top 10 startup mistakes. We've covered a lot of ground here, from validating that market, building a solid team, navigating the competition, adapting to change. And we've even touched on staying focused, using customer feedback, keeping that vision alive. But before we wrap up, let's maybe zoom out for a second here.
Yeah.
I think what's striking about these mistakes is that, well, they're not just about technical skills or business acumen, right?
Yeah.
They're about human psychology, understanding our own biases, tendencies, and how we make decisions under pressure.
Absolutely, yeah. What's fascinating is that many of these pitfalls actually stem from common human errors. Overconfidence, fear of failure, the tendency to get so caught up in the day-to-day grind, we lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. So take lack of market validation, for example.
Sure.
It's often driven by that combination of overconfidence in our own ideas and then, that fear of actually hearing negative feedback.
Right.
We fall in love with our own creations and become, well, I guess kind of blind to their flaws.
It's like wearing those rose-colored glasses, and then wondering why we tripped over that giant obstacle right in the middle of the road.
Yeah, exactly. And that blindness, well, it can be costly.
For sure. And the same goes for running out of cash. That's often a result of, poor planning, unrealistic projections, and sometimes, maybe a bit of wishful thinking.
Right.
We just hope that the money will magically appear, but, without a solid financial strategy, it really does.
So it seems like, self-awareness is a key theme here. We need to be aware of our own biases, our own blind spots, and really be willing to challenge our own assumptions.
Absolutely. And that self-awareness should extend to, our interactions with others.
Yeah.
Especially our team.
Right.
Remember, not having a solid team, that mistake often boils down to poor communication, lack of trust, and just an inability to really handle conflict effectively.
So it's not just about hiring people with the right skills. It's about creating an environment where they can communicate openly, challenge each other respectfully, and work together, effectively.
For sure. And that same principle actually applies to our interactions with customers. Neglecting customer feedback. It's often a symptom of a larger issue, a lack of empathy. We get so caught up in our own perspective that we forget to actually see things from the customer's point of view.
Yeah, it's like we're building this product in a vacuum without considering the people who will actually be using it.
Right.
And, that can lead to all sorts of problems down the road.
Absolutely. So, if we had to distill all of this down to a single key takeaway, it would be this. Self-awareness is crucial.
Yeah.
Be aware of your own biases, your own limitations, and be willing to seek feedback from others. Whether it's your team, your mentors, or even your customers. Be open to learning and growing.
That's a really powerful insight. It's not just about avoiding mistakes. It's about cultivating a mindset of continuous learning and improvement. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought. The startup journey, it's rarely a straight line.
Right.
There'll be bumps, detours, maybe even a few crashes along the way.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. It's through those challenges that we learn, we grow, and ultimately we achieve our goals.
So here's a question for you to ponder. What's one area where you might be susceptible to one of these common pitfalls? What steps can you take to really mitigate that risk and increase your chances of success. It doesn't have to be, a grand gesture. It could be something as simple as setting up a system for gathering customer feedback, revisiting your budget, or even just having an open and honest conversation with your team.
Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles, well, it begins with a single step. And by being aware of these potential pitfalls, by learning from the experiences of others, we can navigate that path ahead with, greater confidence, resilience, and ultimately success. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.